Hey everybody, here's another World of Tanks replay. This one in a tank I haven't played for quite a while. This is the T32, the Tier 8 American heavy tank. If it looks familiar to Pershing players, that's probably a good reason. The T32 is not much more than a stretched Pershing. In fact, with the stock turret, it looks almost exactly like the Pershing, just a bit longer. Now, the T32 inherits the playstyle of the earlier T29 as well as its top gun. You're using the same 105mm gun at Tier 8, which might sound kinda bad, but the T32 has ways of making up for that. First of all, it's a much smaller target. It is still quite a long tank, and quite broad as well, but it's not as tall, and its turret is smaller, so you're a bit less susceptible to arty. Its turret's also much harder. The T32's turret has spectacular front armor, some of the best in the game. You virtually cannot pen a hull down T32 with anything. Not from the front, anyway. The sides of the turret are also quite strong. Many lower tier tanks have a lot of difficulty fighting them, so even if you see the side of the turret, you may not get a penning shot through. Its gun handling is not too bad, considering the size of the gun on it. Its general mobility is alright. Of course it has that good American gun depression. It's just an all-round good tank, and one of the other things the T32 has, which you may notice over the course of this match, as well as a bouncy turret, it also has a really annoying hull. The front of the hull is angled in such a way that a lot of the time it'll produce bounces that people just don't expect. And it makes the T32 really frustrating to engage from the front, even in a tank that should nominally be able to pen it. As you can see, the T32 also has been given one of the nice new HD models. I'm not going to pause the game and zoom in or anything, but if you take a close look at the T32's new model in the garage, or in Tank Viewer if you don't actually own the T32, you'll be able to see just the sheer amount of detail that goes into these new HD models and the textures for them. Each individual cast piece of the turret that's been welded together has the different casting marks on them. It's pretty great.
Target unlocked.
Seeing that level of detail on the tanks just brings them to life, and really, I think, adds something to the game. Even if you don't really see it in gameplay, knowing it's there and being able to see it in the garage is just something special. It's a lot of the same way that EVE players would be familiar with sitting in the station just spinning your ship around, admiring it, even though half the time when you play EVE you're so zoomed out you don't see your own ship, except maybe as a tiny speck against the sky. Now so far, playing the T32 textbook to its strengths, I've been sitting hull down, shooting at enemy tanks, and just moving every now and then to avoid getting hit by arty. Now the enemy arty is actually just an FE304, so really I don't need to worry too much about it. If he hits me on the engine deck I'm going to know about it, but if he hits me anywhere else he's probably not going to do much, except be annoying. Much like the T29 before it, the T32's broad tracks make it really good at eating 304 shells. It's really frustrating to shoot at these with a 304. Now, I'm playing things pretty safe at the moment. There's no reason to push up yet.
That one didn't go through.
I'm in a safe position. I'm able to engage these enemy tanks and tank destroyers without risking myself. Really, this is just comfortable for a T32. This is the kind of position you want to be in the T32. Behind a hill where you can pop out on, 2 or 3 sides and get shots across different parts of the map. This is just perfect. Now with that said, the T32 does fare quite well on city maps as well. It doesn't necessarily need to be sitting behind a hill out in a meadow somewhere. Again, this is because of that fantastic turret, and because of the trollish hull armor. Its mobility also isn't that bad. It's not as nimble as some of the faster heavy tanks, but really it's not as bad as you would think for a tank this size. It's quite responsive on the controls. It's just pleasant to drive. It's pleasant all round, really.
Ready to fire. Enemy vehicle destroyed.
things are starting to look pretty safe now. We have map control. The entire remaining enemy team is bottled up in the top left corner of the map. Sweat through the forest, it's all cleared out. And all they have left is a couple tank destroyers, a Tiger P, and the 304. I decide now is a good time to push out. And, like I said, T32's mobility is actually quite good for a heavy tank. Unfortunately for me, because I am a heavy and not a medium, by the time I actually get up into position to get shots here, most of the enemy tanks have been killed. But I'm not going to complain about a win. My team's done pretty well for themselves this match.
Ready to fire. Where'd they go?
And it was a nice chance to get reacquainted with an old friend. The T32 is just one of those tanks that most people have some kind of soft spot for. And it's also one of those tanks which,
Where'd they go?
although I don't play it very often, I have had some spectacular games in it, even from back when I was quite new to this game. The T32 was always a special tank. I nearly got my first Kolobanovs in it, except there was an AFK guy in our base, which cheated me of my Kolobanovs. I didn't get it until about a year later, but it's a thought that counts, and I was very, very close to getting it with this thing. It's just so good at defensive play. But again, it's not necessarily a sit back and snipe tank. Tanks that are good at sort of defensive hull down play can also be used in an offensive manner in just advancing from hill to hill. So it's kind of like a cautious offensive rather than balls to the wall, T-54 drive straight at the enemy shooting everything kind of offensive. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't played the T32 yet, I would definitely recommend it. In fact, one of the first recommendations I would make to anybody who's getting into the game as a new player, or has taken an extended break from it or whatever, get the American Heavies. Go up the American Heavy line. It is probably the single best tank line in the game. There is not a single bad tank in it, except... trying to think about the low tiers. Okay, there's not a single bad tank above tier 5. Below tier 5, I can't remember if the heavy tree goes through the Lee or not. I think it does. But even the Lee's not necessarily bad, it's just difficult. But the T1 is one of the better tier 5 tanks. The M6 gets overlooked a lot, but it's quite strong as a tier 6 heavy. The T29 is one of the best tanks in the game and always has been. It's just fantastically powerful tank, especially in a defensive situation because of its turret. The T32, again, very, very solid tank. Very difficult to fuck up in because it has a good gun coupled with very, very good armor and decent mobility. The T34 used to be the tier 9 heavy. That got moved to tier 8 premium during the tree reshuffle. That plays very, very similarly to the T32 or T29, just with a really big gun in it. So again, a really solid tank, and a good premium to pick up too, because it makes money hand over fist. You very, very rarely need to shoot gold out of it. Then the newer heavies, I say newer, they've been in the game for about 4 years now. The M103 and the T110E5, very, very, very good tanks. The 103 is probably one of the better support heavies at tier 9. It can't really take hits, especially because of that massive turret. And I think it was in my last video, the STV video, I said that, that thing catches shells like you wouldn't believe. But on the whole, it's got decent mobility. It's got a fantastic gun. Not so high on the damage, but good pen and good rate of fire, very good handling. And it prepares you for the E5. Now, the E5 is everything the M103 is, but actually with survivability. It's got a much smaller profile, it's more bouncy, it's a really solid tank. It's probably the best generalist tier 10 in the game, except maybe the E50M. But even then, it has the hit point pool, and the E50M doesn't. So probably between those two, I'd say it's a toss-up for the best tier 10 tank in the game, and they are two of the best tanks in general, and the E5, when it was first added, just took Clan Wars by storm. You'd see full teams of almost nothing but E5s. It's just a fantastic, fantastic machine. So American Heavy Line, perfect to go up. So if you haven't started up it, you haven't gone up it already, definitely give it a go. Pretty much idiot-proof, they're a lot of fun to play, and if you're interested in playing in Clan Wars or Strongholds or anything like that, or even tournaments, they'll find a place. As ever, I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll catch you on the next video.